Okay, so here's my code. This is my camera controller code. Um, I created a public pawn variable called player, and then a private vector3 variable called offset to from the distance between the player and the camera. In the start function, I have it immediately asking with a debug log warning. So if player is equal to null on the camera, do a warning saying character is not connected. And then calculate and store the offset value by getting the distance between the player's position and camera's position by doing offset is equal to transform.position minus the player's transform.position. That way it knows where the like the calculation of the distance between the player's position and the camera's position at all times. And then in update, I did you set the position of the camera's transform to be the same as the player's by the offset, but offset by calculating the offset distance. So you do transform.position equals players.transform.position plus the offset, and that's how you can get the camera to follow the character at all times and stuff like that. And now I will go to my pawn class, and I do not need this anymore. So I will get rid of this because it was for my sprint, but that code was not working, and I played around with it until I got it working 99% of the way, and then Jonathan Sherwood actually helped me get it the rest of the way because I was trying to do too many things at once with it, and it wasn't registering it and stuff like that. I'll explain it when I get to that. But in my pawn class, I have a private animator variable called anim, a public float for move speed, and a public float for rotate speed, and I set that to 540 and move speed to 1 meters per second. And then in my start, all I'm doing is setting up the animator for the anim variable so that I don't have to plug it in. Update, I'm not doing anything because this is just for the pawn. Save that real quick. And then I created a move function where I'm doing move vector equals move vector times speed, move speed, and then I'm setting the animation to move on the x-axis right here with anim.setFloat right move vector.x, and then I'm setting the animation to move on the z-axis with the anim set float forward move vector.z. I believe that, yeah, yeah. And then I created another function called rotate towards with the parameter of vector3 target point, where you find the rotation that would be looking at the target point, find the vector to that point, and the vector3 target vector equals target point minus transform.position, and then you find the rotation down that vector with the quaternion target rotation equals quaternion dot look rotation target vector vector3 up, and the way the professor explained it is that the world is always going to be up and stuff like that. And then I changed my rotation slowly towards the targeted position with the transform.rotation equals quaternion.rotate towards transform dot rotation target rotation rotate speed times time dot delta time. So there's that, and then in the controller I have a public pawn to access the pawn class called pawn, and then I got the public camera for the player camera, and it holds the camera in it, and then I have a public float. I can actually probably make that private. We'll do that real quick. A private float sprint, which keeps track of how fast the character is moving. I don't think it needs to be set to 10. We'll try it at 2 and see if it still moves sprints. and then private float walk set for half, 0.1 of a float, so that it can calculate the walk speed. In the start, I'm just saying if the camera is hooked up or not with a debug.log warning. And in the update is where a lot of the action is, and also I'll go to the rotate towards first. Rotate to mouse, so that this allows me to move, we'll put the comment as it allows the character to move, allows the character to move in the direction of the mouse pointer. That's what this function does. So this plane creates a ground plane. Ground plane is set to a new plane with the vector up, pawn.transform position. This is set the plane so it is the XZ plane for the player standing on. Then you want to cast the ray from the camera towards the plane through the mouse cursor. So that's the float. You need the float distance that holds the distance from the ray to the ground plane. And then the ray camera equals camera.screen point to ray input mouse position, create a camera ray from the mouse position. And then ground play.raycast camera ray out distance is figuring out the distance from the camera ray to the ground plane. And then find where the ray hits the plane is the vector3 raycast point equals camera.get point in its distance, and then you rotate towards that point. And so you call the pawn class to rotate towards that function, and then the raycast point. That's how you get it to work. So now my update, I have send my move command to my pawn, which is a vector3 move vector equals a new vector3, and you get the input axis horizontal, and then the y is 0, and then the z is vertical, so that you can get it to move left and right and forward and backwards and stuff like that. And then this is limiting the vector magnitude to 1, so limiting the move vector to clamp the magnitude so that it's equal to so the joysticks and the keyboard is exactly the same as what that's doing. And then this right here, the pawn.move move vector, just tells the pawn itself to move. So this right here, this little bit of code right here, is how I was working on trying to get the sprint. I was looking up a tutorial and it had me do a bunch of weird things and it didn't make any sense, and then I finally just took parts of it and got it to where I had 2 if and else statements for the walk and the sprint, but they were counteracting each other, and that's where I was stuck at, and I didn't know that I couldn't have both of them like that. So what Jonathan had me do is input it into one if and else statement so that it will always work, and so that's what I did. So if you push the Z key, it'll slow it down to 0.5 walk speed meters per second, and which will do the walk animation. And if I do the left shift, it'll sprint to, it was set to 10, but it doesn't move 10 meters per second. It just moves like 1.5 or 2 or something is what I have it set at in my animation. And so it'll do that, and then if neither of those are being pressed, it'll set the move speed back to 1 so that it goes back to the normal run position and stuff like that. And then you call the rotate to mouse in the update so that it's always registering where the mouse is at on the screen, so that your character can rotates to face the mouse pointer. That's it for my code, and then I will show what I got in my Unity. Thank you, and I will see you in the next part of the video. Okay, so from what I understand on root motion, this is my blend tree, and I have all of my animations set to it. I have quite a bit in there. If we go through the list, I have run forward, right, run forward left, run backwards right, run backwards left, run right, run left, walk forward, all the way to walk left, and same with sprint forward all the way to sprint left. And if you move them and stuff like that, it propels the character forward. So if I'm wanting to move right, it'll move right and left. I gotta hit play on here to show that though. So he'll move that's sprinting right. This is walking. This is running, and the same thing with forward. From what I understand, it takes the animation and actually uses the animation to propel the character forward, backwards, left, and right, and so forth. So that's how that actually works and stuff like that. And you can see on the tree when you hit each one on the map or webbing or whatever you call it, the parameters. And it's taking the parameters of right and forward because you don't need anything more than that, and causing it to where it moves the character and stuff like that. We'll pause that, and the character itself, I don't remember how to get to it. The character itself, I need to go to project, art, the character itself. I have set up with the loop times for the animation and stuff like that in the animations folder, but you set it to humanoid in the rig and everything like that, and you make sure that the bones and everything like that is set up properly when you do it. So when you hit configure, it shows up the bones and stuff like that, and you go through and you check all of them with the character and make sure all of them are named appropriate and everything like that and hooked up properly and all that. So it takes that information and translates it into the model itself, so that when you do use the animations to propel your character forward or backwards or left or right or horizontal, or I mean diagonal or anything like that, it knows which bones to properly move and stuff like that. That's what my understanding is on it. And then that's what my understanding is. And then on my scene, I created a basic cube for the ground, changed the color of it in my materials and stuff like that, named all that appropriately, and then changed the shape of them, the scale of them, and then same thing with the red walls for the boundaries. I did the same thing for that, and then the walls in the center of the scene. And then I created little ramps with the cubes as well, and there's 3 of those in the scene as well. And then I wanted to test it out, and it didn't turn out the way I was expecting, but it had a tree asset that I can add to it, which is just a stump, and it's supposed to have leaves on it, but if for some reason it isn't working. I don't know if it's because I'm not in a high definition pipe rendering or not. And then I have a ball in my scene that has a rigid body on it so that I can actually move the ball itself. Everything else just has collision. Here is my character itself. It's like an alien type thing. It's supposed to have uh, material on it, but for some reason the material is not showing up when I downloaded it and uploaded it to Unity, and I did do the Unity package and everything like that, so I don't know what's going on with that. But yeah, this is my character. And then I will show his movements and stuff like that. Alright, so he does rotate, and like I said in my previous part of the video, it's 540 so that it's at a decent speed, and his gun is always that he's supposed to be holding is always pointing forward, and he does move up, he does move down, he does move left and right, and if you hit, he moves diagonally in the directions as well. And then he moves in the direction of the mouse, so I don't even have to do the left or right keys if I don't want to, because I can just control which way he's going at all times with the mouse. And see, he is able to move the ball, and there is gravity set. I want to say that's why he's on the ground, because if I can get the ball pinned, I can actually walk over it and he falls back to the ground to prove that there's gravity. And then my new features that I added, because it didn't say that we needed it in there, and so I'm hoping this works as a new feature, but he does sprint, and he sprints in all directions. And then the other thing I wanted to make sure that I could do was walk, and he walks in all directions. Oh, wrong key. For some reason he's not moving that way. He should be, though. I think it's because I accidentally hit the wrong key. But anyways, this is my character, and my little game. I would like to get the scene better and everything like that once I spend more time on it and stuff. See, gravity. And if you have any questions or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to me. If I'm missing anything, please let me know so that I can get that added or fixed immediately. Thank you and have a good day. Bye.